This is a stimulus update and daily news report, and as usual, big changes are happening. We'll go over this article that just came out yesterday. Here's who gets the fourth stimulus check announced by Biden administration. Nancy Pelosi has set a new deadline for the infrastructure bill and the $3.5 trillion stimulus package. I'm going to play you a video clip from Bernie Sanders talking more about what the progressives need to do moving forward. I'll also play a video clip from Pramila Jayapal. Both these interviews happened yesterday, and I'll give you some other more important updates along the way. Hope you're having a more than mundane Monday. If you appreciate the fact-based, fast-paced updates, hit the like button down below. So I want to get your opinion on this. COVID antiviral pills halves hospitalizations and deaths according to the maker. The maker is Merck Drug Company. So this would be the first simple oral medication shown to be effective against coronavirus. Another article here, Merck says its new COVID pill reduces the risk of hospitalization, death by half for some patients. It is in phase 3 trial at the moment, and they're trying to seek emergency use authorization in the US. So let me know your opinions on this. What do you think about taking a pill to be protected against COVID? If you're not for the vaccine, would you be for the pill? If you are for the vaccine, would you be for the pill? So let me know, pill or no pill. Let me know your thoughts on this down in the comments below. Next, let's get into the meat of it. So infrastructure deal in peril after Pelosi gets played by progressives refusing to budge on mega spending bills. So when it comes to the power struggle between Nancy Pelosi and the progressives, looks like the progressives have won the battle in the stimulus war. So progressives did hold out for that infrastructure bill vote. They did not give Nancy Pelosi a vote in that, as they said they would. They gave Nancy Pelosi fair warning. Now, when it comes to moving forward, looks like Nancy Pelosi has now moved the deadline to try to figure out a new strategy. So Pelosi sets end of October deadline for infrastructure vote. This gives a lot of time. It's kind of bittersweet. It's bitter because it's so far away, and things may get done, it may not get done. The reason why it's sweet though is because a lot of those other promises may make it into that $3.5 trillion package. So the senior citizen $1,400 fourth stimulus check, a general fourth stimulus check, $15,000 homebuyer credit, increase in Social Security, a lot of those programs that have been trying to get into the package, it gives it more time for potentially to go in there. Here's a video clip explaining more about the deadline and what's happening in Congress.
President Biden promising to spend more time promoting his economic agenda in hopes of overcoming divisions within his own party. The delay of the infrastructure vote made it clear that Democrats still need to figure out what their priorities are, especially since the price tag for the social spending package needs to shrink to about $2 trillion. Now, Biden will head to Michigan tomorrow to help rally support.
Look, you're asking if I'm confident, okay? Am I unyielding? Do I commit that I'm going to do this? Come on. I believe I can get this done. I believe when the American people are aware what's in it, we can get it done.
But there are a lot of hard feelings to overcome. Congresswoman Stephanie Murphy, the only Democrat to vote against the tax plan, said she is profoundly disappointed and disillusioned by this process. The business community is also frustrated. The Chamber of Commerce straight up called the president wrong to link the infrastructure and social spending bills. Democrats are still trying to create urgency around this issue, though. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi now wants to pass the infrastructure bill, she says, by Halloween.
What are your thoughts on this new pushed back deadline? Is it a good thing, bad thing? Do you want things to just happen right away? Is this going to give more time for more beneficial things to be added? Let me know your thoughts on that down in the comments below. So Bernie Sanders says, not my understanding that Biden called for lower price on reconciliation bill. I mentioned this in yesterday's video that one Democrat representative in the House said that President Biden wanted the price tag to be from $3.5 trillion down to around $2 trillion. Bernie Sanders said that is not my understanding what he said. What he said is there's going to have to be give and take on both sides. I'm not clear that he did bring forth a specific number. Also, Bernie Sanders says Sanders urges progressives to stand firm in Democratic battle over Biden agenda, basically saying hold firm. There's not going to be an infrastructure vote unless there is the $3.5 trillion vote first, or at least at the same time. Here's a video clip from Bernie Sanders from last night.
Is Senator Bernie Sanders of Vermont. He's, of course, the chair of the Senate Budget Committee. Senator Sanders, welcome back to Meet the Press, sir.
My pleasure.
Let me start with what apparently the president said behind closed doors to the House Democrats, and he floated the idea that, hey, this number is going to be a little bit lower, 1.9 trillion to 2.2 trillion. Have you accepted the fact that it's not going to be 3.5 trillion?
Chuck, that is, by the way, that is not my understanding of what he said. What he said is there's going to have to be give and take on both sides. I'm not clear that he did bring forth a specific number. But what the president also said, and what all of us are saying, is that maybe the time is now for us to stand up to powerful special interests who are currently spending hundreds of millions of dollars trying to prevent us from doing what the American people want. We want to lower substantially prescription drug costs in this country so we're not paying 10 times more for certain drugs than Canada and other countries. And the pharmaceutical industry has 1,400 lobbyists on Capitol Hill right now trying to stop us. We want to deal with the existential threat of climate change. We want to deal with child care. We want to expand Medicare so elderly people can chew their food, can have hearing aids, can have eyeglasses, and we can pay for this by demanding that the wealthiest people and largest corporations finally start paying their fair share of taxes. That's what this struggle is about. Do we do what the American people want? Do we fulfill what democracy is supposed to be about? Or do we bow down to powerful special interests?
What is your preference when you're writing this bill? Look, I know what your initial preference was. You believe 3.5 trillion is the compromise, that you started at 6 trillion. But whatever the number ends up being agreed upon, do you believe in these programs? Because there's a large wish list and a set of needs the country has, but you might not be able to do all of them fully funded. Do you believe in trying to do as many of them as you can, and maybe that some of them are smaller programs and you'll vote on them in a couple years to extend the funding? Or do you think you got to do 3 or 4 things really well?
Chuck, this is not a wish list. Climate change and cutting carbon emissions has everything to do with whether or not we leave this planet to future generations that is healthy and is habitable. Scientists tell us we got a few years. You want more workers out in the workforce. We need to reform childcare so that 1 million women can come back to work and not have to pay as a family 20 or 30% of their income for childcare. You have to have skilled workforce. We can't have a skilled workforce and do the good jobs that are out there unless we train young people. That's why we want to make community colleges tuition free. So this is not a wish list. This is what the working families of this country want and what the economy needs. The real question is, the Republicans, of course, are owned by the pharmaceutical industry and the fossil fuel industry. We don't expect them to do anything. But the question now is whether the Democrats can come together, and I think that we can, to finally do what working families in this country desperately want us to do.
You know, I'm curious, one of the things that we've observed here in our news division is we know we're going to be closer to a deal when we see you and Senator Manchin in the same room with the president. And I'm curious, Senator Schumer apparently had a memo that had the number that Senator Manchin was basically his beginning negotiating number. Was that news to you, or have you known this for a couple of months where Senator Manchin stood on his red lines?
Well, Senator Manchin has, in fact, been public about talking. I think his number was $1.5 trillion. That's fine. That's a good negotiating start. Manchin has also said that he wants it paid for. I want it paid for. And you can pay for it with a $3.5 trillion bill by finally demanding that the wealthiest people in large corporations start paying their fair share of taxes. As you well know, Chuck, there's a given year when Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk, the wealthiest people in this country, don't pay a nickel in federal income taxes. Large corporations don't pay a nickel. We address that. You could pay for a $3.5 trillion. You could pay for a $6 trillion bill and pay for it completely.
Yeah. I understand that. But was this a number you knew? Because a lot of people are wondering, hey, why are we waiting till this week to start these negotiations when apparently some of these, we knew Senator Manchin's starting number in July. It just felt like a lot of time was wasted.
Well, no, that's not accurate. I mean, there has been serious negotiations going on literally for months now. And, you know, there is a frustration that it has taken this long. I think I voted for the infrastructure bill. I think it's important that we rebuild our roads and our bridges and our water systems. That's very, very good. But it is absolutely imperative that we have a strong and comprehensive reconciliation bill which finally addresses the needs of working families. So, our job right now is to rally the American people to continue the negotiations. And I think at the end of the day, we're going to pass both pieces of legislation.
I want to talk about this issue of having them both linked together. I want you to react to what Senator Kyrsten Sinema said yesterday. Arizonans and all everyday Americans expect their lawmakers to consider legislation on the merits rather than obstruct new jobs and critical infrastructure investments for no substantive reason. What Americans have seen instead is an ineffective stunt to gain leverage over a separate proposal. She's referring to what happened in the House and the delay of that vote as a stunt. You were very supportive of the decision to hold off supporting that bill until everything was agreed upon. What do you say to Senator Sinema and to other moderates who don't like the linking of these two bills, that think it sort of sends a message of dysfunction to the rest of the country?
No, it's not a message of dysfunction, and I'm sure you remember. From the very beginning of this process, the President of the United States, Speaker Pelosi, Majority Leader Chuck Schumer made it clear. We're going down this road in a dual way. Both bills have got to be linked together because there is a strong feeling on the part of many of us that if you just pass the infrastructure bill, which is a good bill, I voted for it, then we will not get to the bill that working families really want, that finally demands that the wealthiest people in this country start paying their fair share of taxes. So what we said is, look, we all want the infrastructure bill. Great. But we also have got to do the reconciliation bill, which addresses the long neglected needs of working families and the elderly. Expanding Medicare to cover dental, hearing aids, and eyeglasses, doing childcare, doing community colleges, enormously important for working families.
Bernie Sanders, as usual, wants more out of that package, saying $3.5 trillion is just the bare minimum. He wanted more, but it's not going to go lower. But he said it might have to go lower in order for it to pass. Let me know your thoughts on what Bernie Sanders said. Also, another person who wants more out of it is Representative Pramila Jayapal. So $1.5 trillion for economic bill is too small and not going to happen. That $1.5 trillion number comes from Senator Joe Manchin right here, who has been trying to get the price lower, extend the deadline, or not even have it voted on at all. He's not for that $3.5 trillion package, despite many Democrat claims that it is fully paid for. Here is a video clip from Pramila Jayapal, Progressive Caucus leader.
Answer the question. Will you, meaning Democrats, get to yes so that both bills can get passed and on the president's desk for a signature?
Absolutely. We absolutely will. I am totally confident of that. We're going to pass both bills. And I am just really proud of the Progressive Caucus this last week because we got the two bills back on track. The bipartisan infrastructure bill obviously was done. It was ready. But by saying we're not going to leave behind women and families who need child care and paid leave, we're not leaving behind the climate crisis and real action on that. We're not leaving behind housing that is desperately needed across the country, and we're not leaving behind immigrants. We actually were able to say, let's get them both done together. 85% of the president's agenda is in the Build Back Better Act. And 5 months ago, Jonathan, he came from the White House to the Capitol, laid the case out to us, and we can't wait to get both bills to his desk.
Okay, you laid out climate, immigrants, housing, child care. There's one more that I missed noting. How are you going to be able to do all that within the confines of what now appears to be the range in terms of the number? Before it was 3.5 trillion. Now it appears to be between somewhere between 1.9 and 2.3 trillion.
Well, let me first say, at $3.5 trillion, it was still a great deal. It still is a great deal when you think about how much that is per year over 10 years in terms of percentage of GDP. However, I understand that only 96% of House Democrats and Senate Democrats agree on that number. I thought 100% did when it came out of the Senate. But I now understand, I just want to make the case, right? But I now understand that we're going to have to get all 50 on board. It's great that it's 96%, but I do understand that we got to get everybody on board. So we're going back to look at all of our priorities and how we get all of those things in. But Jonathan, I'm not going to negotiate against myself. I still don't have a number that everybody is agreeing to. And as the president said, the number is the byproduct of what we put in there. So we're focusing on what is it we want to get in. Our 5 priorities have been clear from the very beginning, and we're going to stick to those priorities. We want all of them in. If we have to fund them for a slightly shorter period year at a time. Some of them can do that, and that might be one way to bring down the number.
Okay, so I mentioned the statement that Senator Sinema put out yesterday. I want to put up on the screen more of what she said. Democratic leaders have made conflicting promises that could not all be kept and have at times pretended that differences of opinion within our party did not exist, even when those disagreements were repeatedly made clear directly and publicly. Canceling the infrastructure vote further erodes that trust. Your reaction to that?
We're beyond trust. We're to verify. We're all part of the Democratic team. We are all delivering, not on some fringe left-wing wish list. I have that. But, we are delivering on the president's agenda. This is the president's agenda. All of these things are what are going to make a difference to people across this country. Jonathan, we need roads and bridges. We do. I need them in my district. We need them across the country. But the reality is people are not going to necessarily remember the road. They are going to remember if they can get back to work because they now can afford childcare, or they can take care of their families because they now have expanded Medicare benefits or health care benefits, or that their kids are going to have a place on this planet because there is a planet because we're taking on carbon emissions.
I also want to put up statements that were made by two of your House colleagues, Josh Gottheimer and Stephanie Murphy. Congressman Gottheimer said, "We were elected to achieve reasonable common sense solutions for the American people, not to obstruct from the far wings." And Congresswoman Murphy said, "While I have great respect for the Speaker, I believe her decision to again delay a vote on the bipartisan infrastructure bill is wrong." Your reaction to your two colleagues?
Look, I think this is hard, but the reality is that we're now in a real negotiation around delivering on the president's agenda. Not just 15% of the agenda getting passed, but actually the entire 100% of his agenda getting passed. And that is a good thing for the country because we will be able to go back. And for those frontliners that are out there, they will be able to say we delivered to women, to young people, to immigrants. They'll be able to say we actually fought for this and we delivered. And that's what we're doing right now.
Pramila Jayapal, very confident that it will get done. The big question is, when will it get done and how is it going to benefit all Americans from this package? So we'll see what happens. I'll keep you updated on that. Next, let's go over this article right here. Here's who gets the fourth stimulus check announced by Biden administration. So it goes and talks over about the 3 rounds of stimulus checks, who got that, but then it goes into the different 10 states that are offering their own stimulus check programs, some as high as $7,500. So California up to $1,100. We already know about those $500, $600 checks that are going out in California. People are still receiving them and checks are still going out on a weekly basis. Maryland up to $500. That's going for families. $500 for a family, and an individual gets $300. In Michigan, up to $4,000. So teachers in Detroit who teach in classrooms get $2,000 in hazard pay, and they get an additional $2,000 if they juggle hybrid learning duties as well. And then also, state of Michigan teachers paid across the state got $500 in hazard pay, and school staff received $250. When it comes to Vermont, so the state of Vermont will reimburse you up to $7,500 for qualifying moving expenses, but you have to move there and work in a certain industry. So that's not really for everybody, and I don't know if that would really qualify as a stimulus check, but $7,500 in moving expenses, that's pretty high. So New Mexico is giving out $750 checks. Stimulus checks. Florida, $1,000 checks going to first responders as well as teachers, and administrators also receive $1,000 bonuses in Florida. And then Georgia, Tennessee, Colorado, Texas. So a lot of stimulus money going to teachers. State legislators in Georgia, Tennessee, Colorado, and Texas authorized hazard pay to teachers up to $1,000 in some cases. So those are the latest in terms of the 10 states giving out their own type of stimulus money. And that is all the stimulus news I have for you today to hopefully brighten your day a bit. Here's my daughter Bella's tip of the day.
Hi guys, this is Bella. This is the tip of the day. I want to tell you something that you should do. So every time you make mistakes, you make mistakes, and you only have one life. So clean those up and make a new world. And also what you should do is you should always be passionate with what you have.
Thank you so much for watching, and thanks for being a part of the Wise Flies community. I appreciate all of your support, and I wish you the best week possible. Hope you make every day as great as it could possibly be, and I hope you had a really good weekend as well. If you want to check out any of my other videos, you could click up here for my other channels or down here for more stimulus updates, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care, be safe. Thank you for watching.